In a world where charm is no longer enough and attention is the rarest currency, most men fall prey to manipulation, emotional traps, and endless confusion in their relationships with women. They ask, why is she distant now? Or, why does she chase someone else? This video reveals the cold, tactical truth, not from fantasy or romance but from strategy, where emotional control, psychological dominance, and subtle power define success. These are not tips. These are hidden laws that govern behavior and bend outcomes. If you've ever wondered why some men command desire while others are ignored, stay until the end. The problem we will solve is simple. How can a man shift the balance of power so that women don't just desire him? They pursue him relentlessly. In the realm of power and persuasion, nothing is more lethal than being too visible, too predictable, or too emotionally accessible. Men who offer their full selves too soon are often devoured by the very women they aim to impress. Mystery, on the other hand, acts as a force multiplier. It is the art of keeping others guessing, the subtle withholding of one's deeper self, not out of fear, but out of cold strategy. Women are not drawn to clarity in men, not in the way society pretends. They are attracted to the unspoken, to the aura of something ungraspable, something that demands curiosity, imagination, and emotional investment. The man who offers too much too early destroys the hunger that fuels attraction. When a man becomes overly available, emotionally transparent, endlessly expressive, he leaves no space for the woman's mind to wander. Her curiosity, the very root of her desire, dies a quiet death. The mind does not lust for what it fully understands, it lusts for what it cannot explain. The high-value man, then, does not aim to be understood. He becomes a riddle. He is not unreadable out of confusion but by choice. Every message, every glance, every interaction is calculated to reveal a portion while concealing the whole. This isn't deception, it's dominance of perception. And he who controls perception controls desire. This is why silence often seduces more than speech. The man who chooses his words carefully, who does not rush to fill every moment with declarations or reassurance, becomes a figure of power. His presence creates an emotional vacuum, and into that vacuum, a woman pours her thoughts, assumptions, and fantasies. The less you explain, the more power she gives you in her mind. Women do not chase those who are loud and constant. They chase those who leave a gap, a space they feel compelled to fill. In that psychological pursuit, they become bound not just by desire, but by confusion, and confusion often precedes obsession. Mystery also breeds the perception of higher value. What is rare is respected. What is common is dismissed. A man who is always available, always texting, always showing interest, reduces his value by virtue of saturation. He is easy to possess, and thus not worth possessing. Contrast this with the man who is seen sporadically, who does not explain his absence, who is emotionally reserved. He becomes an event, not a routine. She begins to wait for him, wonder about him, question herself in relation to him. This reversal of emotional roles is the beginning of power. For when a woman questions her hold on you, she tightens her grip in desperation. The strategic man avoids being emotionally legible. He does not wear his intentions on his sleeve. He smiles without full warmth, speaks with purpose but not with need, and listens without revealing agreement. He does not pursue validation through constant praise or reassurance. Instead, he understands that desire is amplified in its absence. He will flirt with ambiguity, allowing his actions to suggest interest, while his words remain elusive. He never lays his emotional cards on the table. She may think she knows him, but she never truly does. This unresolved tension sustains her interest far more than the hollow certainty of a man who proclaims everything. In psychological terms, the uncertain reward triggers the strongest emotional addiction. When a woman cannot predict how you'll respond, when your affection fluctuates not wildly but with subtle variation, her mind becomes entrapped in seeking patterns, in analyzing behaviors, in decoding meaning. This psychological trap is not accidental. It is forged deliberately. The man who understands this dynamic can guide her emotions without coercion, simply by mastering the rhythm of appearance and withdrawal, of validation and silence. He creates a pattern she desires, then interrupts it. The disruption creates confusion, and confusion creates attachment. It is not the loudest, flashiest, or most emotionally vulnerable man who wins a woman's heart. It is the one who leaves something unsaid, some part unrevealed. This is not about lying or pretending to be someone else. It is about knowing that the true source of influence is not in what you give, in what you withhold. Mystery seduces because it is a mirror. The woman projects her fantasies onto you, and in doing so, she becomes invested not in who you are, in who she imagines you might be. That investment is your leverage, and leverage is the soul of all power. In the intricate dance of seduction, power, and influence, one immutable law holds true: he who controls emotion controls direction. This truth is more profound than charm, wit, or even physical appeal. Women do not respond to logic in the arena of desire. They respond to feeling, to mood, to the atmosphere a man commands. It is not enough to be desirable. You must create the emotional climate in which her mind becomes tethered to your presence. The man who fails to do so is merely a participant in her emotional storm, a pawn in a game he does not realize is already underway. To control the emotional climate is to set the tone in every interaction. It means that you are never reactive, never pulled into emotional outbursts, never drawn into the highs and lows she may attempt to provoke. You are the calm center around which her chaos orbits. The moment you let her dictate the mood, she gains leverage. And in matters of control, leverage is not shared, it is seized. A high-value man does not argue, does not beg. His power lies in his unshakable stillness. His emotional detachment unnerves, it confuses, it makes her question. That questioning breeds curiosity. Curiosity breeds deeper attachment. Women will often test to see whether a man can be moved, emotionally, mentally, energetically. This is not cruelty, it is instinct. A woman cannot surrender to a man who bends at every emotional push. She must feel that he is above the storm, unaffected by drama, anchored in something deeper than immediate gratification or insecurity. Every time she pushes you and you remain centered, she receives her answer. This man is not like the others. He is not controllable by seduction or by emotional theatrics. He is a force, not a follower. And to a woman truly in tune with her deeper nature, this is magnetic. This is why indifference, when authentic, is so powerful. A man who can walk away without fear of loss, who can say no without anger, who can withdraw affection without punishing or explaining, holds a silent authority that shakes the very foundation of her emotional patterns. He becomes the frame, and she must fit within it or be left outside of it. This is not about cruelty or manipulation. It is about refusing to be governed by her shifting moods. It is about refusing to validate erratic behavior with emotional reactions. The moment you become reactive, you lose the upper hand, and once it is lost, it is rarely recovered. Consider this: the strongest men are not those who suppress emotion, but those who master it. They do not deny what they feel. They simply do not allow feelings to control their decisions. Women observe this restraint and, whether consciously or not, they respect it. A man who is ruled by his emotions is no different than a child in a man's body, but the one who chooses when and how to express, who understands timing, tone, and restraint, commands not just attention, but admiration. And admiration is a gateway to influence. To control the emotional climate, you must become a master of delayed response. Do not answer instantly. Do not react to provocation. Let silence become your weapon, your statement, your leverage. When she sends an emotionally charged message, let your calm response redefine the situation. When she withdraws to test your attachment, meet her absence with space, not pursuit. When she expects anger, deliver composed clarity. This reversal of expectations unsettles the emotional patterns she may have successfully used on lesser men. She begins to recalibrate, to adapt to your rhythm, to move within the emotional sphere you command. Control does not require dominance in the traditional sense. It requires psychological superiority, an understanding of timing, perception, and emotional inertia. Most men chase validation. They want to be understood, approved, and like high-value men pursue influence. They understand that respect matters more than attention. Attention fades when emotion is exhausted, but influence lingers, especially when it is tied to emotional impact. The man who walks into a room and controls its temperature, not with loudness, but with presence, creates an environment that either draws people in or makes them anxious. This is power without words. The emotional climate is not just the tone of conversation. It is the unseen battlefield where dominance is established long before decisions are made. It is in the slow pacing of your speech, the confidence of your silence, the neutrality of your gaze. It is in your unwillingness to match her energy when it becomes irrational, and your ability to elevate her when she deserves it. She must never forget that you are the one who sets the tone, and that entering your world means submitting to your emotional weather. She may resist it, she may test it, but she will never forget how it feels. The man who is always available, always eager, and always within reach slowly transforms from desirable to disposable. Human nature does not cherish what is abundant. It craves what is rare, uncertain, and just beyond its grasp. This truth, though uncomfortable, governs the game of power and attraction. Scarcity is not about physical absence alone. It is the deliberate orchestration of unpredictability. To become the man who lingers in a woman's mind, you must first become the man she cannot pin down. She must never feel that she has fully figured you out, for once she does, her imagination ceases and with it, her desire. Predictability kills mystery, and mystery is the currency of seduction. The moment she can forecast your every move, she feels she owns you. This ownership, whether she admits it or not, breeds contempt. A woman will not value what she possesses without effort. She needs to feel the weight of uncertainty, the tension of not knowing where she stands. That tension keeps her emotionally invested. A man who reveals too much too soon, who expresses his feelings too freely, who texts too often, calls too quickly, and explains himself constantly becomes emotionally inexpensive. She may not admit it aloud, but within, she begins to search for something more elusive, something more costly. True scarcity is not about pretending. It is about genuinely being a man of purpose, a man whose time is devoted to something greater than appeasing emotional needs. Your life must be structured in a way that places her second to your mission, not out of neglect, but out of hierarchy. You are not the man who revolves around her. You are the man she orbits. This frame must never be compromised. She will test it, challenge it, attempt to shift your focus toward her by withdrawing, provoking, or seducing. But if you remain centered, unbending, she will eventually adapt to your rhythm or drift into the chaos of men she can control and therefore cannot respect. To become the prize, you must behave as if you already are, not with arrogance but with indifference, not with performance but with quiet certainty. A high-value man never chases. He attracts through absence, not desperation. He understands that every time he withholds his presence, he increases its worth. Every time he delays a reply, he multiplies the anticipation. Every time he disappears momentarily, he forces her to confront the space he once occupied. And in that space, curiosity, doubt, and longing grow like vines in the dark. She begins to question her own standing, and in doing so, she deepens her emotional investment. It is not about being cruel or manipulative. It is about understanding emotional economics. If you are too accessible, your value diminishes. Women may say they want a man who is always there, but observe who they truly pursue. It is never the man who gives endlessly. It is the one who withholds wisely. Scarcity must be paired with emotional depth. When you are present, you must be present with intensity. Your moments with her must be meaningful, charged, and unforgettable. Then, when you withdraw, the contrast is felt even more sharply. This balance of intensity and absence creates a psychological loop from which escape becomes difficult. You must also master the art of subtle inconsistency. Never allow your patterns to become predictable. Sometimes you respond quickly, other times you vanish. Sometimes you show affection and other times distance. This unpredictability breeds emotional addiction. The human mind is wired to pursue intermittent rewards more obsessively than consistent ones. It is not what she receives that hooks her. It is not knowing when or how she will receive it. This is the same principle that drives gambling, obsession, and loyalty to the unattainable. A man who knows how to trigger this cycle in a woman becomes unforgettable. Scarcity must also be spiritual. Your thoughts, your inner world, your ambitions, these should not be easily accessible. Do not tell her everything. Do not reveal every fear, every past pain, or every dream. Let your depth be hinted at, never fully exposed. Let her feel there is always more to discover, that she has only scratched the surface of your mind and soul. This is what keeps her intrigued long after the physical has been explored. Physical scarcity fades if the mind is an open book. But if your psyche remains partly veiled, she will always return, trying to read the next hidden chapter. You are not an open scroll to be read at will. You are a locked manuscript, written in codes she cannot decipher completely. She may think she knows you, but just when she feels closest, you shift, you elevate, you vanish into focus. And as she looks for you in the men who come after, she will realize your rarity was never just your presence. It was your elusiveness, your sovereign control, your mastery of emotional scarcity that made you the only man she truly couldn't keep. In every dynamic between man and woman, there is always a dominant frame. One of them defines the terms of reality while the other submits to it, often unconsciously. The frame is not about aggression or force. It is about influence. It is the invisible structure within which the interaction unfolds. If a man does not consciously set the frame, the woman will. And once she does, the rules change in her favor. She becomes the standard, the reference point, the one who determines what is acceptable, what is exciting, and what is worthy. The man then becomes the chameleon, adjusting, reacting, seeking approval rather than commanding it. To dominate a frame means to decide the pace, the boundaries, and the expectations of the relationship. It is not a matter of control over another person, but of control over the environment in which the connection develops. A man who walks into a woman's frame is a man who orbits her world. He adopts her values, her needs, her timeline. He becomes the responder, not the initiator. She decides when things move forward, when they pause, and when they end. Such a man slowly loses his masculine polarity. He becomes safe, agreeable, and eventually invisible. The high-value man never relinquishes the frame. He builds his world, his mission, his principles, and then invites others to participate on his terms. His world is not constructed around a woman's attention. It is fortified by purpose. When a woman enters this world, she does not find a man waiting to serve her emotional whims. She finds a man already moving with direction. She either adapts to his frame or distances herself from it. In either case, he remains unmoved. This steadiness creates tension, an emotional friction that paradoxically draws her deeper. Most men fail to maintain the frame because they fear losing a woman's affection. They accommodate, they negotiate, they soften their position. But the moment you bend your frame to fit hers, you communicate weakness. You show her that her comfort matters more than your values. And once you do this, the dynamic shifts. She may enjoy the control at first, but deep down respect begins to erode. Without respect, desire withers. A woman cannot genuinely desire a man she feels she can shape at will. She may like him, but she will not yearn for him. Frame control also manifests in how you handle emotional turbulence. When a woman tests you through silence, accusations, or withdrawal, she is not seeking compliance. She is unconsciously seeking evidence of your stability. She wants to see if you can hold your frame, if you can remain composed while she loses hers. If you panic, explain, or chase, you lose. But if you remain calm, detached, and grounded, you communicate that her emotional waves will not sink your ship. She may not express it. Within her, a deep trust begins to form, a trust not based on your emotional availability, but on your emotional immovability. Language, too, is a tool of frame control. Do not seek validation in conversation. Speak with finality. Do not over-explain or justify. Speak from authority, not from need. Lead with statements, not questions. Avoid asking what she wants. Define what you expect. This does not mean being disrespectful or arrogant. It means being assertive. A man who is unsure of his words is unsure of himself. And a man unsure of himself invites her to lead. Once she leads, you follow. And once you follow, you begin to chase. The one who chases cannot control the frame. Social settings reveal the true holder of the frame. Observe couples: the man who constantly looks to her for cues, who agrees before she speaks, who apologizes before he's accused. This man has surrendered the frame. His power is performative, not real. He exists under her emotional jurisdiction. In contrast, the man who speaks with calm authority, who leads without seeking applause, who is unbothered by her moods, this man holds the invisible reins. Women may say he is arrogant, mysterious, or even cold, but they never forget him. He leaves an impression because he defines the space around him. To maintain the frame, the man must be deeply rooted in himself. He must be a man of conviction, not convenience. His presence must communicate, without words, that he is complete. He is not seeking a queen to complete his castle. He is offering her a seat within it. If she qualifies, his frame is built from boundaries, purpose, and selective access. He does not reveal everything, give everything, or offer everything. He understands that power lies in what is withheld, not what is given freely. Power and desire does not belong to the one who gives the most. It belongs to the one who gives the least, at the right time, in the right dose. The essence of scarcity lies not in absence, but in selective presence. The man who is always available, emotionally or physically, becomes predictable. And what is predictable becomes unremarkable. It is not distance that kills attraction, it is overexposure. Men who drown women in constant communication, constant validation, and constant effort unknowingly suffocate the very spark they seek to ignite. Scarcity is the soil in which desire grows. When a man learns the art of strategic withdrawal, he triggers a primal instinct in the female psyche, a need to resolve the uncertainty, to restore the connection, to seek what has been pulled away. This tactic is not about playing games. It is about asserting value. It is about becoming the kind of man who moves with such purpose that he cannot always be reached, who disappears not to manipulate, but because his attention is not a gift that is handed out indiscriminately. To master scarcity, one must first master detachment. This does not mean apathy. It means emotional independence. A man who is detached is not cold. He is sovereign. He is not ruled by her attention or driven by her reactions. He understands that the power to walk away is the only real power a man has in romance. When you can walk away without fear, she feels the gravity of your presence in your absence. She wonders what occupies your mind, who occupies your time, and why your validation is no longer pouring freely into her world. Men who cannot withdraw are slaves to outcome. They chase text, they chase closure, they chase reassurance. And in doing so, they reveal their position on the hierarchy beneath her. The man who understands this dynamic does not react to silence with anxiety. He responds with silence of his own. He knows that if he does not chase, the uncertainty multiplies. She will either invest to regain his attention or reveal her disinterest. In either case, he wins, because he refuses to beg for what should be offered willingly. Scarcity also affects the rhythm of emotional investment. The high-value man does not always escalate. He creates highs and lows. He gives warmth and then becomes cold. He rewards and then withdraws. These shifts in emotional climate confuse her senses, but they also bind her. The absence makes her appreciate the presence. The silence makes her crave the sound. Women chase not certainty, but intensity. And intensity is born when a man refuses to be consumed entirely, when he lets her taste his essence, but never devours his core. Even in relationships, scarcity must remain. The man who becomes domesticated, whose identity dissolves into the woman's routines, expectations, ceases to be masculine in her eyes. He becomes another possession, another item in her curated world. But the man who keeps a part of himself untouched, who disappears into his mission, who withholds parts of his soul, keeps the fire alive, not by suppressing love, but by never letting it become too easy. Women do not want to own a man completely. They want to be surprised by the parts they cannot reach. Scarcity can also be enforced by time. A man who controls his time controls his worth. He is not always free. He does not cancel his priorities for her presence. He values her, but not above his purpose. He communicates intentionally that her access to him must be earned, that he will not always respond immediately, that he does not need constant emotional nourishment. This self-sufficiency either attracts her deeper or repels her entirely. But the man is unmoved, because his validation is internal. He is the sun around which others orbit, not a satellite in search of a planet to revolve around. To create scarcity, the man must discipline himself. He must resist the temptation to always be available. He must observe rather than react. He must act with precision, not emotion. Every withdrawal must have weight. Every silence must speak. Every appearance must feel earned. He must condition her to expect less and value more. And when she finally reaches out, when she finally bends, she finally chases. He must not gloat. He must remain stoic, as if it was always meant to be this way. Because in his world, access to him is the prize, not the process. In the great game of power between men and women, the man who masters control over his own presence, emotions, and image becomes untouchable. He is not guided by desperation, nor does he kneel to affection disguised as manipulation. Instead, he moves with quiet calculation, understanding that admiration is not given freely. It is earned through distinction, mystery, and strength. The rules outlined are not about deceit, but clarity, not about cruelty, but command. The high-value man does not chase affection. He commands it by becoming the rare, disciplined force in a world of indulgent men. Women do not beg because they are weak. They beg when a man becomes the embodiment of what they cannot quite possess, but cannot ignore either. The game is not about being loved endlessly. It is about being valued beyond reason. Let other men entertain with comfort. You, instead, must rule through scarcity, composure, and a deep understanding of desire's true engine, controlled distance. When the world asks for your affection, your attention, your soul, you must offer them only what strengthens your position, never what drains it. That is how you remain desired, pursued, and above all, never forgotten.